This is Josh Friedman, joined today by German journalist Max Bachmann. I most recently spoke with Max outside the 2019 Bilderberg conference just about a month and a half ago in Montreux, Switzerland. Max, thank you again for joining me, and how are you doing?
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me. I'm doing quite well.
Well, the news we have now is that just yesterday, the European Parliament voted to confirm Ursula von der Leyen, German politician, most recently defense minister of Germany, confirmed as the next European Commission president. Now, I think most of the world still doesn't even know who Ms. von der Leyen is, but Max, you're quite familiar with her, so I would appreciate if you would tell the general audience a little bit about who is Ursula von der Leyen.
So Ursula von der Leyen is a German politician, obviously. She is a member of the leading party in Germany, the Christian Democratic Union. And yeah, she is kind of a meme for being overqualified for every minister post she had in the recent years. She was minister for work and social life, then she was the minister for family, and then the minister for defense quite recently, and now she is the commission president of the EU, or the president of the commission. Yeah.
Which go for it.
And she is a four-time Bilderberg attendee, which is also pretty fascinating, especially in the recent 4 years. And yeah, I think we will go into that and the connection of that in this interview.
Well, let's go straight into that. So I recall waiting outside the Geneva airport on the Sunday, the final day of this year's Bilderberg, as we're trying to greet or interview or confront some of the members who are departing, and I saw you had a nice amount of time with this blonde German lady who now we know is the next European Commission president. So what did you garner from your brief interview with Ursula von der Leyen at the Geneva airport, and what did she have to say?
Well, I asked her a pretty dumb question, to be honest. Now, when I look back at it, because the head of her party, the current head of her party, who isn't Angela Merkel anymore, it's Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, or in short form AKK. She was set to be at this year's Bilderberg meeting, but she didn't attend. So my question for her party friend, Ursula von der Leyen, was why she didn't attend. And Ursula von der Leyen told me because it's been, the reason for that was the regional situation in Germany, which I think at that time it was that the coalition partner of the Christian Democratic Union, they switched leadership. So that was a pretty, turbulent time for the coalition in Germany. And yeah, that's why she didn't attend. But the funny thing about AKK, who wasn't at this year's Bilderberg meeting, but obviously she stayed away from it, but now she is the defense minister instead of Ursula von der Leyen.
It's interesting how
it's
come full circle in a sense. But I remember back then, you and me spoke, in fact, in the interview we did, and that was the key issue, at least we thought at the moment. We thought that AKK was coming to Bilderberg as the potential heir apparent to the throne to become the next chancellor of Germany, and we weren't focused on von der Leyen, but here we are a month plus later, and von der Leyen is now going to be the European Commission president. Anything else you can tell us about her Bilderberg appearances? How many times has she come to Bilderberg?
At least 4 times.
And
that's
a lot for just some minister.
Yeah, sure. We had other ministers from Germany recently coming to Bilderberg, but 4 times is quite an amount. Now we know why. And yeah, also in terms of AKK being the follow-up for the heir of Angela Merkel, now that she is defense minister, she had no minister post before that, she was just the party leader. And now that she is a minister, the German president could, if Angela Merkel were to step down, put AKK in the position of the German chancellor, which is also a quite interesting alignment. And there was a press conference which collided with the inauguration of AKK for the defense minister position, where Angela Merkel, Ursula von der Leyen, and AKK were sitting next to each other, and one of the guys commented the Bilderberg trio, because every one of those 3 were at the Bilderberg meeting or supposed to be there at one point.
So, as far as we know, AKK never actually attended this year's Bilderberg or a Bilderberg.
No, she didn't, but she was supposed to. I guess that's enough.
I guess
it was on the official list for at least 2 days.
I guess if she does become chancellor, then we can count her as another one of those Bilderbergers who rose to power. What do you expect from the European Union with von der Leyen at the helm? I remember back during Bilderberg, you were talking a little bit about her support for a European army, and I think that's become very clear at this point. Yeah. Is that something we can expect, and what else can we expect?
Another topic that was pretty big was, or 2 topics that were pretty big that I recall from her speech were her stance on climate change. She wants the EU or Europe to be the first climate neutral continent, which is quite a goal, I guess. And yeah, also she seems to be forgetting that the EU, which she is responsible for, is only a certain part of Europe, because there's still the large country of Ukraine, and soon also the UK, and as well as the big part of Russia from Europe that is still missing in the EU. So she's not really responsible for the whole continent. But the other topic that I found was pretty interesting was the social stuff she was talking about, so that they would have a certain the lowest you can get paid for your job,
like a minimum wage or universal basic income.
No, not really that, but minimum wage. Yeah, that's also what she tried to propagate there. And yeah, I think it looks pretty socialist in many points of what she is trying to get done. Or at least many of her goals usually come from the left-wing parties, like minimum wage and climate protection laws and stuff like that. So you could really say that the parties in Germany or Europe in particular have like pretty much 2 layers right now, where you have the right-wing parties, which are still conservative, and then you have all the other parties for pretty much in the mainstream policies, all on the same side. Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on her coming from the Greens and I guess others to move to the left a bit.
Yeah, which is interesting because even though the Green Party, at least the German Green Party, I think they didn't vote for her, or at least some or many of them didn't vote for her. But there's it's funny because they still get their goals done under with her, even though they didn't vote for her.
Well, it sounds like they've already forced their hand a bit. And what about the European army? Can you talk a little bit about her support for a European army and what could possibly materialize?
Well, it's not just her. It's also many people who've been at Bilderberg uh, are a huge supporter for the European army, which uh, correlates of their goal of making Europe a more centralized state or nation uh, kind of subject, you know. And well, her goal, she just stated that she wants the European army. There's nothing really I can say more about that. She's pro-European army, and if that's her goal, I think we may see steps towards that in the real near future. Yeah.
Well, thinking about Bilderberg, it's interesting because that European army project is on a collision course with NATO, and NATO, the head of NATO, is at Bilderberg, and obviously lots of Western elites are very supportive of NATO and don't want NATO to break up. So I find it interesting that there's this European army project moving forward, and I guess with Von der Leyen as commission president, it's going to continue on.
Yeah. Interesting thing about that is also she's also kind of a meme for. She's kind of a meme for in Germany for yeah, basically screwing our army, the German army. Many vehicles that aren't working, weapons that aren't functioning very well, and yeah, I mean, they are not quite satisfied with what she's done with it. So it's funny to think how she, who messed up the German army, now wants to build an even bigger army. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
There were a scandal or two, right, that came up with Von der Leyen. I guess that might have been one of them. Something had to do with her defense minister's job.
Yeah, she had many people who were yeah, kind of telling her, helping her, people who aren't in politics, but they get paid to help her with doing sorts of stuff, and she kind of had one of those advisors. That's it was an advisor scandal, and she paid a lot of people for advising her on the issues that she should be competent to speak about as a minister. And if you pay advisors to do all of your job, then why would you even be qualified to be the minister in the first place if you just pay people to do all your job, all your work.
All right, well, lastly, let's wrap it up with a little bit about German politics. We have AKK replacing Von der Leyen now. So is the coalition going to hold together? Is Merkel going to make it through her last term? Any ideas, any predictions?
Yeah, so there's a funny clip of Angela Merkel where she actually said that by accident, she said that her term will end this year, but she meant when the legislation ends. Of course, that's how she corrected it. And now that they put AKK in the position where she could take over for Angela Merkel in case she has to step down because of her health. You've seen Angela Merkel shaking recently, like 3 or 4 times in public events. She suddenly started to shake, and many quite strange symptoms of some some sort of sickness are occurring with Angela Merkel, and maybe she is going to step down, and then AKK can take over by the end of the year, which is a good. Now they have a good position to prevent new elections, so they can, Angela Merkel can step down because of her health, and then AKK can take over without them having to risk a re-election this year, because they still have a lot of work to do screwing up Germany.
Well, I would say that for a party that seemed to have a lot of trouble lately, they seem to have quite a grip on power in Europe as well. So I don't know, maybe in one direction they're screwing things up, but at the same time, now they've got one of their own as European Commission president, and it looks like they've got AKK slated to take over for Merkel. So we'll see what CDU rule has in store for the future, but it seems like more CDU rule at the national level, and I guess at the European level as well. Any last thoughts, Max?
Yeah, on the national level, we will see in Germany with re-elections, or in many of the local elections coming up this year. There are 3 important local elections in fall this year, two in September actually, and 1 in October. And there we will most likely see coalitions forming between the CDU and the Green Party. Which is basically going to be the last stand for the CDU, because they have to throw away all their conservative topics if they really want to seriously coalesce with the Green Party.
So then I guess you see a hard shift to the left coming up for the CDU, at least at the national level.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what's coming. Yeah.
We'll see how Germans respond to that. Interesting times. Bilderberger is in high places, as always.
Yeah.
We'll see. 5 years ahead now, with Von der Leyen at the helm of the European Commission. Who knows what's ahead for Merkel and AKK? Danke schön. Thank you for joining me. Anything we can expect out of you in the near future? Otherwise, I guess I'll be bumping into you at Bilderberg.
Yeah, I guess that's the next thing you will see from me. Sorry for my bad English. First of all, I'm not well trained when I'm not at Bilderberg and speaking to you guys all the time. No, I'm pretty much just watching politics and looking forward to the next Bilderberg and seeing what the candidates that were, or the members that were there this year, are doing over the year, and preparing for next year.
You're very good with handling the names and photos list at Bilderberg.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be at my A game next year for that.
Someone produces a behind the scenes Bilderberg vlog, everyone will see how talented Max is at handling that book we've got. All right, stay in touch. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Goodbye.